Hey y'all, and happy Stag Sunday. Welcome back to another episode of Still a Good Podcast. I'm your host, Bianca Lene. I'm so happy to be with you this Sunday. I hope you guys had a great, restful, peaceful, blissful weekend. I hope last week was good to you. And I hope you are ready to start a new week. New week, new week. All right. I am so happy to be on the mic with you guys today. I really want to talk about something that hits home for me. I feel like I say that often, but this one, this one really does. I want to talk about something that sits at the very core of who we as women are. For the women out there listening, for the men out there listening, I hope this episode can help you maybe understand your woman a little bit. I really hope it just sparks conversations between men and women, whether it's friendships, relationships, brothers and sisters, whatever the case may be. I really hope that it sparks some good conversation. So, that thing that I want to discuss is needs, right? Um, and I'm not talking about like the surface ones like flowers and chocolates or spa days or, acknowledgement in those ways, which do not get me wrong, fellas. You should be doing those things for the women in your life, okay? Sisters, nieces, wives, girlfriends, all those things, okay? And I understand, let me disclaim that men have needs too. However, I'm a woman, right? So I'm going to always speak from a woman, from a mother perspective, okay? So I'm not talking about those types of needs, right? I'm talking about the soul level needs, like the need to be seen, the need to be heard, the need to be understood, all right? Um, so I want to keep it 100 like I always do. We're going to talk about how this plays a part in motherhood, how it plays a part in marriages, and even like for the women who aren't moms yet, but one day want to be. I want to talk about how their needs affect them, daily. And of course, I have to touch on um, the thing that I know I do so well, and that's overthinking, and how communication and partnership can ease the weight that we carry around in our minds, right? So before we dive into that, if this topic hits home for you the way that it does for me, I want you to go check out my Instagram, right? Either the podcast Instagram at Still a Good Podcast or my personal Instagram at Naturally Be Lene. Um, Go on over there and check out my story that I posted today. And it asks the question, what does it mean to you to be seen? What does that mean? What does that sound like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? I want you guys to answer that so we can get talking about that. And then I plan on sharing a few next week. In next week's episode, hopefully. All right, so let's get started. So let's talk about just the universal needs for women, right? So as women, one of our deepest desires, I feel like, is to be seen. Um, Another disclaimer, these are my opinions, right? These are things that I feel that maybe I've also discussed with friends and family and people around me. But take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Okay? All right. So as a woman, I feel like our deep one of our deepest desires is to be seen. Um, Not just looked at, but like really noticed, right? To have someone acknowledge not only what we do, but who we are. And then that I feel like is kind of hard sometimes as a woman, as a mother. We're always doing for others that we don't take the time to allow people to see us. So that's the accountability that I feel like, you know, we as women need to take on. Um, Besides being seen, right? I feel like women have a need to be heard. And being heard is more than just someone letting you talk, right? It's listening to the heart behind the words. As a professional yapper, As a person who likes to talk, right? Sometimes the words are just words. It's the emotion, it's the body language, it's the feeling behind those words that need to be paid attention to. But the greatest layer, I believe, is being understood. Okay. To have someone connect with you emotionally and say, I get it. I may not have lived that way, or um, I may not experience it that way, or I might not feel that way, but I get where you're coming from, right? I understand what you mean. Like having someone say that to you, that is really powerful, right? That is love in action, not just emotion, but in action. Okay. Um, but let me pause right here. So, I would really love to hear from some of you. Between being seen, being heard, being understood, which one do you crave the most? Go ahead and put it in the comments, send me a DM, let me know. Women and men, I want to hear from you guys too. Which one do you crave the most? Being seen, being understood, or being heard? Which one? Which one? All right. Um, let's talk about something that kind of ties into all of that. Well, not kind of, it does. It ties deeply into all of those things. And that is communication and overthinking, right? Um, because let's be honest, especially as millennials, right? I I'd hate to do that, but the millennial generation, even, the older Gen Zs, we've been through a lot in life. A lot before we even like had to really be in life, right? And a lot of us are overthinkers. Like that's just the end of it. Between social media and the things that have gone on in our society, a lot of us are serial overthinkers. And transparency moment, I am terrible at overthinking. Like I will overthink myself into a bad mood. I do it at least once a week, and I'm working on it. I'm actively working on it. I am. But it also helps me see that a lot of other people around me are also serial overthinkers. Our minds are like always moving a million miles a minute. Did I do enough for my kids today? Did I say the wrong thing to my husband? Should I have said that to my boss? Should I have cut that person off in traffic? Should I, whatever the things are, we are constantly overthinking. Did I drop the ball? Should I have done more? Should I have done less? Right? Constantly overthinking. And listen, like I said, I'm no exception. Let me tell y'all a story. And it's kind of funny. Well, it was funny in the moment, but it's also funny now thinking about it. How my daughter shut all of my overthinking down in like one quick statement. So, season 1, I did an episode with my friend Kaya. Go back and listen to that if you haven't. So me and Kaya were in the car, um, with Lyric, right? Lyric's always with me. She's in the back seat. And we were talking about my family's move back to Houston. It was actually the day of our move. Well, the day that we moved all of our things into storage. So all of the friends were helping. The boys were at the house doing all the heavy lifting, right? And me and Micaiah and Lyric were running errands of whatever kind. I'm not even sure what we were doing. And so we were discussing the move, and I was stressing, you guys. I was overthinking everything. And don't get me wrong, right? We've already moved back to Houston, and I am still stressing and still overthinking. Um, but every time I do, I go back to this moment. So me and Makai are going back and forth about, things that need to be done and how I'm going to do this and what do I want for this and blah, 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 blah. Right? Where are we going to live? How are we going to find a home? What if it doesn't work out? And I'm just kind of like spiraling. If you know me in person, you know that I am good for a quick spiral, right? A lot of times I can snap myself out of it, but I am definitely good for a quick spiral, whether it's like a positive or negative. So I'm spiraling, driving in the front seat. Makai is in the passenger seat, Lyric's in the back, right? She's in the back seat. She's playing Roblox on her iPad. And I'm not thinking she's paying any attention to us, you know. I know my child well enough to know that she is paying attention, right? She is definitely listening, but not. I'm thinking, she's playing Roblox. She's back there talking to her tablet, talking to herself, doing all of those things. Um, yeah, so she we're like in the middle of the conversation and she looks up and I can see her in the rearview mirror. She looks up at me and I look, back at her in the rearview mirror and she says, "But mommy, it's just a house." And when I tell you, me and Micaiah looked at each other and like busted out laughing because, yeah, you're right. It's just a house. It's just a move. It's just, it's just whatever it is that you are overthinking and that is on your mind. It's just that, right? And me and Micaiah like froze. We looked at each other and we were like, whoa. Like, not this 7-year old reading both of us for filth, right? Because I was spiraling, and my friend having the empathy for me that she had was also, in the midst of that spiral. Um, and their lyric is 7 years old, playing her Roblox, reminding me that it's easier than you think. And and yeah, I'm like thinking back on it, I'm just like I'm still in shock because it sounds so simple, right? It's just a house. It's just a move. It's just a moving truck. It's just, you know, especially if you are a child of God. If you are a God-fearing person, then you know that God has already gone ahead of you and has already worked it out, right? I was losing sleep over something that God has already secured. Okay? He has already done the work. So that's what overthinking does. It convinces you that the problem is bigger than it is. It convinces you that the problem is bigger than God. And as moms and as women, we do this a lot. Okay? And sometimes, sometimes we just need to vent, right? We don't need to figure it out. We don't need someone to fix it for us. Sometimes we just need to vent. We just need a safe space to unload our thoughts or our worries or our what if. And that's why communication is so important, especially when it comes to your partnerships, right? Um, this is where I want to speak on that aspect where your partners come in. Um, when we come to you, men, I'm speaking to you directly. When women come to you talking a million miles a minute, because I know I'm not the only one that does it, right? My husband can attest to my million miles a minute conversations. When we come to you talking fast on our feet about what's on our mind, please know that it is not nagging, right? Just because I am telling you something that happened, something that you did, something that I didn't appreciate, whatever the case, it is not me nagging, it is not me complaining. Sometimes it's just therapy for me to release it out into the open. It's just that, a release, right? And sometimes me doing my fast talking is the only way that I can catch my breath again, if that makes sense. Okay. And if you are listening right now and you're nodding your head like, yes, you know that that's you, and that you do that sometimes, I want you to share this episode with your spouse or partner. Play it in the car, send them the link, whatever need be, and start that conversation. Take this and deepen that conversation, okay? Let them know that you're not always poking at them saying that they're doing things wrong. Sometimes it's just, this is how I feel. In the same breath, sis, when that man or that woman comes to you and wants to do the same thing, you need to be able to handle that. Okay? This type of communication is love in action. Okay? Love in action is something that we need to do more of, not just love and emotion, right? Love in action. Let me show you that I love you by seeing you, by hearing you, by understanding you. All right. And communication is a huge part of those things. Okay. So, for my moms that are listening, I know how easy it is to feel unseen, unheard, and misunderstood in motherhood. I think society does it a lot, right? You see a mom who has a day off from her children, and you're like, how could she go out with her friends? How could she wear that out? How could she be drinking? How could she be smoking? How could she be whatever? You see a mother who's overstimulated and has a moment of j- anger, maybe not even anger, just frustration. And you look at her and you say, how could she talk to her husband that way? How could she talk to her kids that way? Right? Um, I could go on and on of examples of ways that mothers are misunderstood, unheard, and unseen. Um, I need everyone to understand the identity shift is real. Okay. You become a mom, and suddenly the woman that you were before that is invisible. Okay. Now, in my case, right, I became a mom, and now I am ready to become a different woman than I was before I was a mother. Some of us, just depending on the age that you have children, some of us have already came into our prime by the time we have children. And so we become mothers, and all we want to do is get back to that person we was before. And then again, like I just said, some of us are working our ways to being a better person. Either way, it is very common for a mom to lose herself in motherhood. Okay. Um I remember in therapy once, one of my counselors told me, I think I shared this already, but one of my counselors told me that I was not tied. Well, yes. She told me that, sorry you guys. She told me that my worth was not tied to my to-do list or my accomplishments. That I don't even need them to be who I am, right? And like I told y'all then, that stopped me in my tracks because it is so true. I thought being mom, being a good mom meant getting everything done, doing it perfectly, doing it right. But really, being seen and heard in your own home matter more than checking those boxes. For my sisters who may not be moms yet, I want you to hear this. Start practicing now. Learn how to honor your voice, learn how to honor your boundaries and your needs before motherhood comes, so that when you do become moms, you don't lose yourself in that process, right? Establish those boundaries and your proper way of voicing your opinion and those boundaries and your needs. Um, because here's the truth, our kids are watching. I know I've said it before, and it is so true. Your kids are watching. They are learning how to communicate through you. They see if we silence ourselves or if we stand firm in what we need, right? And they learn to do it themselves. So, by modeling healthy communication and self worth, you are teaching them the value of their own voices too. Okay. This is so important for both little boys and little girls, especially in this climate of society that we are in. Okay. So, if you had one of these moments where you've realized that, if you realize your child has repeated something back to you that sounded exactly like how you talk to yourself, whether it's good or bad, send me a message and tell me that story. I want to hear. I want to hear about it because I think those are the moments when I realize how grown up Lyric is, right? She'll say something to me that reminds me of the way that my internal monologue speaks to myself. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And when it's bad or like negative self talk, I definitely correct it, right? It's much easier to correct other people's negative self-talk than it is to correct your own. But it's also always a reminder to me to continue to work on myself, to stop talking to myself negatively. We've got to stop talking to ourselves negatively. And that goes back to that communication and being heard and understood and seen, because you want other people to hear you, see you, understand you, but you also need to hear, see, and understand yourself, right? So let's talk about partnership really quick. Whether you're married, whether you're dating, whether it's a long term love, having a partner who creates space for you to vent, to express yourself, to unravel your thoughts without judgment, having a partner who creates space for you to be you, who's not stopping you from being the you that you are, that is priceless, okay? Priceless. When Dominique came into my life, he didn't just see me as a mom, right? He didn't just see me as a wife. Once we got married, he understood that loving me meant loving Lyric, and that made me feel seen, like in so many ways. Now, let's be honest, a lot of men are like natural fixers. And this is my husband to a T, you guys. He is a natural fixer. He wants to jump in and fix the situation at any and every cost. No matter what it is I'm venting about, there is always a solution. He is solution oriented. He is always going to come back with a, well, maybe you should try this, or well, maybe this means this, or well, whatever the case may be. Um but sometimes I have to remind him of that. Sometimes I just want your presence, babe, not your problem solving, right? Sometimes I just want you to listen. And we're working on that still, but he's done a very good job at learning to balance. That there are times when I just need to spill the tea, right? Spill what's on my mind. And there are times where I need you to fix it for me or help me fix it. Um, yeah. And when I tell you having a partner that makes that space for you is a game changer, especially when you've come from multiple relationships, situations, friendships, even, that you feel like you don't have the space to just vent. Because when your partner sees you and when they hear you and they're working to understand you, it strengthens your bonds. It builds your confidence in yourself and in your relationship. Um, it also makes your home feel safer. And I think these are things when people say, love is not enough, not cheating is not enough. Um, all of these things make relationships stronger. If you're not hearing and understanding and seeing your person, but you're like, well, I don't cheat and I come home when I'm supposed to, and all of those things. Yeah, that's half of it. But the other half is making sure that your relationship and your home is safe for your partner. And I know I'm speaking as a woman, um, but I'm also speaking to the women, right? Number one, you should feel safe in your relationship. And number two, you should also be making your partner feel safe in your relationship. Okay. All right. If she feels safe, fellas, she's going to show up and show out. I promise you. I promise you. Like, if you make your person feel safe in your relationship, they are going to always return that feeling, right? Women, especially, we take what is given to us and we multiply it. We multiply it. And so if we feel safe, if we feel seen, if we feel heard, if we feel or we feel understood, not misunderstood, if we feel understood, we are going to multiply that. In the same breath, if we feel unseen, unheard, and misunderstood, we will also multiply that. And that is why you will look at a woman and think to yourself, why does she act that way? Why does she do those things? A lot of the times there is feelings of unseen, unheard, misunderstood. Okay. All right. I could literally go on about this forever, right? I think that this is a huge topic for motherhood, for relationships, for marriages, but I am going to wrap it up today. Um, and so, as we wrap it up, I want you to check in with yourself one day this week. Pick a day, right? I'm going to pick Wednesday because it's the middle of the week. And on Wednesday morning, I'm going to get up and I'm going to ask myself, do I feel seen? Do I feel heard? Do I feel misunderstood? Or excuse me, I'm going to say, do I feel seen? Do I feel heard? Do I feel understood? And if the answer is no, then give yourself permission to start voicing those needs to whoever it is that you need to voice them to. Because I'm sitting here talking about motherhood and marriage, and some of y'all are feeling unseen, unheard, and misunderstood in your careers, right? Some of us go to work every day, and our boss is not seeing or hearing us, and it's making it hard for us to do our jobs, right? Give yourself permission to start voicing those needs. Now, voicing your needs to be done respectfully. We don't go anywhere rolling our necks and pointing our fingers, right? We do everything with class, right, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. So let me leave you with a little bit of affirmation. I want you guys to know that you are worthy of being seen. You are deserving of being heard and understood. Okay. Even when your thoughts are messy, even when your heart is heavy, your needs matter. And you should start honoring them without any type of guilt because you are still good. Even if you need more, you are still good. All right. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Still a Good Podcast. Thank you for rocking with me. Thank you for listening. Check out our Instagram at Still a Good Podcast and check us out over on TikTok. That's really mostly for the ladies. So, ladies, go check me out on TikTok at Stag Mom Official. That's what it is. Stag Mom Official. Yes. Please, please, please take this week. Check in with yourself. Remember your needs. Remember your worth. Okay. And don't forget that at the end of the day, you're doing it. You're doing everything that needs to be done and you're doing great at it. Okay. I love you. And I hope that you guys have an amazing, amazing, amazing week. And as always, give yourself some grace because you are doing so much better than you think you are. I love you. Have a good week.